Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside Dick Briggs. Ready to talk a little bit of college wrestling. We've got a couple of the national tournaments are complete, and now we've got the crown jewel D1 championships coming up this Thursday through Saturday at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. I guess a lot of question marks here. You think Penn State's a heavy favorite, obviously. Then how will 2 through 5 kind of, pan out? Are the Hawkeyes going to be healthy, or are they going to be hurting like they were at the end of the Big Tens? How will the seniors finish through? Will David Carr be able to win his second straight title for Iowa State? Will UNI's Parker Keckeisen improve last year's third place finish? A lot of questions to be answered, huh?
Absolutely. You nailed it in every front there. Let's start with the team race, I guess. I think, I'll add to that question. Can Michigan hit on all cylinders at nationals like they did at the Big Tens and maybe top Penn State? So, 2 weeks ago, I would have said Penn State's a clear and heavy favorite. I don't know if they are as much of a favorite now after the Big Tens and what Michigan was able to do. So, makes for excitement, and also with the injuries. I mean, who knows with Iowa? I mean, they could be in the hunt or maybe drop out of the trophy race. Because we got a lot of guys that are hurt. You got a lot of guys that like to keep matches close, and they can be knocked off at any time. So there's questions all over the place. It makes it exciting.
Yeah, I guess just sticking with the team race right now, I still think Penn State is the favorite despite the Big Ten, just because a lot of the guys where they finished at the Big Ten, I still think that's where they're going to end up in Detroit. I think you've got Bravo Young in the finals there as well. Nick Lee at 141. I think you're going to have a finalist in Starochi at 74, and likely Brooks at 84. Max Dean's capable to do that at 97, even though 97 is going to be an extremely tough weight. I just don't know if I see the same out of Michigan. Sure, you got Soriano. 184 is pretty tough, and Miles Amin certainly could win it. I could also see him finishing third or fourth, too, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
And like Cameron Amin at 165 was a finalist. I'm not sure I see him scoring that many points like he did. Same with Luan at 157. But of course, you also have Stevan Micic that wasn't necessarily a big contributor at the Big Tens, but could turn it on and finish really high. So I think it's going to be I think it's Penn State's here. I think Michigan, and if Iowa's healthy here, and then you've got others like NC State, Arizona State, Missouri, kind of in that third tier as well.
Well, I think you nailed it. And I agree with everything there, and it's a lot of questions. I mean, you could throw a couple of Penn State kids in there as like Hildebrand at 25, and what's the heavyweight's name? I always mispronounce. Kirk Bullet, yeah. So I don't know if those guys will be place winners. They could drop out a little bit there, but you're right with their horses, and a couple of their returning champs are question marks right now as to whether they're going to be returning or they'll be champs again. They'll be high place winners, and likely finalists, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, Iowa's got all 10 in the field. You've got Drake Ayala. Just looking at their seeds here. Let me pull them up to make sure I get them right. But Ayala is the 13th seed at 125. He'll open with Fabian Gutierrez of Chattanooga. 133, you got Austin DeSanto, who's the number 5 seed, which I think was kind of a shock. I guess I thought 133, the top 3 were kind of cemented. 1, 2, 3 with Bravo, Young, Fix, and DeSanto, but apparently it didn't fit the matrix. Right? So DeSanto's number 5 seed. He'll open with Sidney Flores of Air Force. Jaden Ironman, runner-up a year ago, is the number 2 seed. He'll face Wilfredo Gill of Franklin and Marshall. Max Murin, number 8 seed. He's got Corbin Monson of Central Michigan. 149, Caleb Young is the 9 seed at 157 versus Doug Zapp of Penn. Alex Marinelli's the 3 seed. He's got Evan Barzak of Drexel. Michael Kemmer is the 5 seed at 174. He's got Ben Pasuik of Army. Abe Assad's number 18 seed at 184. He's got Hunter Bolin at Virginia Tech. That's a tough matchup, even though Bolin's the 15 seed. He's an All-American type competitor. And 197, Jacob Warner's number 6, and Tony Theope's the 3 seed at heavyweight. Out of those seeds, did anything? I mean, I mentioned DeSanto, but did anything surprise you with how that fell out?
Yeah. I mean, obviously DeSanto, man, that surprised a lot of people around the country. Though it changes the route there, but I think RBY and Fix are really close, and I wouldn't be surprised if Fix actually won it if they both make the finals. So with DeSanto being on RBY's side, that I don't know if that is all that damaging. Now it comes down to he's just got to be able to finish his takedowns. He gets in, and he's just got to be able to finish his takedowns. And I don't know if that's a physical thing that RBY is putting on him, or if it's a mental thing that he's just getting in there and stopping and not really trying to turn the corner. So we'll see on that one. So that's the other seeds. There's some tough ones, but they're just gonna have to battle and win.
Yeah, not that it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Cassiope getting the 3 seed behind Schultz of Arizona State. I thought that was a little wonky. I thought coming in it'd be kind of a clear cut 1-2 with Stevenson, Cassiope, but I guess we'll see if those two meet in the semifinals. But
KJ, as long as you brought up heavyweight, interesting that the 7th seed. So Cassiope actually felt nice as the 3rd seed because the 7th seed meets up with the 2nd seed in the quarterfinals, and the 7th seed is Mason Paris.
Wow.
So Cassiope kind of, by being 3rd, fell into a nicer route.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, and it's been a little bit of a different Mason Paris. I think he wrestled better in the Big Tens and stuff. But yeah, that's going to be that's an interesting one coming out of that bottom half because and you got Jordan Wood at number 6 there too from Lehigh. You really can't use Penn to put Cassiope and Schultz in the semifinals, really, when you've got those 2 possible matchups to get by in the quarterfinals with Wood and Paris. Good point.
Right. And heavyweight, man, we've seen some crazy things through the years happen at heavyweight. You just never know.
for sure, for sure. Where do you see Iowa? Where do you see Iowa finishing? You know, obviously with the depth and some of the point scorers they have, even though they don't have, the 25, 26 points you can kind of guarantee from Spencer Lee. But where do you see Iowa when it's all said and done?
Oh boy. Okay, so here we go. This is my concerns because I don't know. Injuries at 25, at 74, at 41, and at heavyweight. Those injuries, I don't know how bad they are and how much they're going to impact the team. And then I've got a handful of kids other than those four that like to wrestle the matches close. And when that happens, man, it can go, that's where you can drop a match that you didn't think you're going to drop. My favorite pick, I'm going to say it right now for Iowa is Marinelli. I think he can win it. And this, I really think he's going to win it this year. But, there's a guy that hasn't had great success at the national tournament. He's had some, first round losses and those types of things. So, so with Iowa, you could go two ways. They're in the hunt, and they certainly have the numbers if everyone can contribute. But if they don't, those question marks that I have, they could even fall, maybe potentially out of the trophy race there. So I don't know. I'm all over the place on this, KJ.
Well, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is it's just the uncertainty.
Right.
What's Ironman how is Ironman gonna be after the Big Tens? Because you could tell he was bothered in the one quarterfinal match that he wrestled, and he's gonna end up getting Sebastian Rivera potentially in the semifinals, and that's gonna be a tough hurdle to clear. And you mentioned, okay, how bad is Cassiopes? Kemmerer claimed he was doing well and feeling as good as he has since the Big Tens, and but you just don't know, and especially with shoulders and stuff like that, it doesn't take much for the aggravation or for re-injury. For that type of situation. So it's like, what's going to happen? You've got guys like Max Murin at the 8 and Caleb Young at the 9 that are capable of finishing, in the top 4. But you could also see him in the round of 12. So, what are they going to end up getting out of them, and what are you going to get out of Drake Ayala?
Yep.
As a freshman, he's looked very good at times. You've got Brandon Courtney, who is a national finalist if they meet in the first round, and then you get by that, you got Cardinal from West Virginia, likely. Regardless of the opponent in that section, Ayala is going to have a really, really tough road. If he gets through that first round.
Right. And we kind of touched on most bases, but we haven't yet on 3. So you've got DeSanto at 33 and Marinelli, who have been really, the front runners on the Iowa team this year. But even with DeSanto, he's got a tough road like we talked about, and it's those top 2 are so good. I don't know if he can get in there or not. So we'll see that with Marinelli. I feel that's the best bet, so that we can go there with Assad. I don't know if he's there yet. So hopefully he can bust through and get to be an All-American this year. But he's had a good post Christmas. But we'll see on that one. But I don't know if he's quite there yet.
Sure. I still think Iowa ends up being second. if everybody's healthy. I could see them finishing third or fourth, behind Michigan, maybe NC State if NC State puts things together. Um, but I still think I still have them slotted in there at number two, um, when everything shakes out. So we'll see about that. We'll also see if Iowa State can move back into the top 10. Do you think this is a chance, or this is the year that Kevin Dresser gets the Cyclones back in the top 10?
They're in a position where it's gonna, if the field gets spread out a lot, that could happen because they have, Carr, man, I just don't see him losing. He's just so steady and so good. But anything can happen, of course. But so they're going to have those points, and then I think they're going to, at 84, Coleman's going to be a good shot there. I just think I'm not sure with Parker where he's at, if he's injured or what, but he's been kind of up and down a little bit. Dagan up and down a little bit. So if those guys can get firing, they can certainly be in the top 10, I think. Yep.
Yeah, and I'll just run down their first round matchups here. Kyson Terrakina, he's the 26th seed at 125. He's got number 7 Trevor Mastro Giovanni of Oklahoma State. 133 Ramazan Adesayov is the number 24 seed. He's got number 9 Michael Colacho of Penn. 141, you mentioned Ian Parker. He's the 13th seed. He's got number 20 Parker Filius of Purdue. And, you mentioned just kind of where Parker was, his performance at the Big 12s. But Filius knocked off Stevan Mincic and Chad Red, I believe, at the Big Tens. So that's not an easy bout. That's not a real easy draw there, out of the gate for Parker. 149 Jarrett Dagan, the number 17 seed. His number 16 William McDougald of Oklahoma. Then you mentioned David Carr, the number 1 seed, defending national champion. He's got the winner between number 32 Jordan Slivka of Ohio or Derek Holschlag of UNI. And of course, Carr and Holschlag, that was a decision in the duel. Holschlag was able to prevent bonus points there at the McLeod Center. 174, Joel Devine's number 24 seed. He's got number 9, Mikey Labriola of Nebraska, which, in addition to DeSanto, I think that was probably one of the more egregious seeds, bad seeds of the tournament. There's no way Mikey Labriola is the number 9, the 9th best 184 or 187 pounder there. Not exactly sure how that played out, but that's a tough matchup for Devine in the first round. 184, you mentioned Marcus Coleman. He's number 8 seed. He's got number 25 Michael Batista of Virginia. Younger Bastida, who I still think is a wild card. That's a guy that, if things work out well, if he hits a stride, he's somebody that can go a long way on the front side of the bracket. He's number 10 seed. He's got number 23 Braxton Amos of Wisconsin, and then at heavyweight, Sam Schuyler, number 24 seed. He's got number 9 Lucas Davidson of Northwestern. I'm not so sure that isn't a match he could win. I know Davidson's pretty salty, but when it comes to heavyweight, we've seen Schuyler wrestle well at times, and I think it's something he possibly he could come out with a win.
But right, we'll have to wait and see on that, of course. But I agree with you with Bastida. He's sitting in a pretty nice spot actually. At the 10th seed, if he gets through that, likely he would have Rocky Elam, who he beat in overtime in the duel from Elam from Missouri, who's the 7th seed. So, and then the 2nd seed there is Buchanan from Wyoming. So and he's in that quarter. So that's not the worst place to be for him. So you're right. I think that's a potential to really springboard through. And with him, you never know. He's so good on his feet, and he's exciting to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's like I said. If if he gets hot at the right time, and that's a big. We talked about how tough the Big 12 was and at that weight class, and it kind of shows there where you could have a couple Big 12 matchups right there where you've got the 2, 7, and 10 in the bracket with Buchanan, Elam, and Bastida. So, yeah, Bastida's got a win over number 6, Jacob Warner, who's on that bottom side as well. Eric Schultz stumbled in the finals at the Big Ten, losing to Max Dean. So, I think some things are up for grabs there at 197. I think this could be one of the more surprising weight classes.
Right. And you brought up Labriola at 74, and I'm looking at guys in front of him. Man, that's a deep weight class.
It is.
So I mean, I agree he doesn't belong at 9, but there's some solid wrestlers at 74 and 84 as well.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Especially when you look at those top 4, and even when you include Cameron, even though he's banged up as the 5. But you've got Starochi, you've got Mackay Lewis, Logan Massa, Hayden Hidley. That's that weight class is really good. And like you said, even 5, 6, 7, and I'm including Labriola and the 5, 6, 7 range really, ahead of like Ethan Smith and Dustin Plott, and Michael O'Malley of Drexel. So I don't know what's it going to take for Iowa State. I mean they've wrestled really well at times. I think they stumbled a little bit out of the gate there at the Big 12, but they actually did finish pretty strong, and did well. What's it going to take for them to move into that 7, 8, 9 range?
I think they're going to have to do, like you just mentioned, in the national tournament, like they did in the Big 12s. Because they're probably going to lose some matches, and they're going to have to do it on the backside. But I think these guys, like I mentioned, Parker, Dagan, Coleman, Bastida, and obviously Carr. I think those are the best opportunities to be All-Americans. And if they can do that, those guys, they're in it. They're in the top 10, I believe.
So UNI, they've got 8 qualifiers, and actually it's the most qualifiers ever under Doug Schwab. And interestingly, as well, they have another as an alternate. They had a wild card at-large bid and berth and heavyweight with Terrell Gordon. Cale Happel is an alternate at 141. But you've got Brody Teskey, the 15th seed, at 125. He's got number 18, Noah Certain. Kyle Biscaglia, 14 seed at 133. He's got Chattanooga's Braden Palmer, the 19. At 149, Budo, who had a really good Big 12 tournament. So do you think he's coming in with some momentum? He's the 20th seed. He's got number 13, Bo Bartlett of Penn State. I think that's a very winnable match. We mentioned Holschlag and Slivka of Ohio in that 157 pigtail. The winner gets David Carr. Not a real great place to be, but
And just a note on that, for people that might remember Joel Greenlee, the Ohio coach, that Joel Greenlee is the Ohio coach. There's a connection there, who was a former UNI All-American, multi-time All-American, and so thought I'd throw that in there.
oh yeah, for sure. At 165, Austin Yance, the number 15 seed. He's got number 18, Anthony Valencia of Arizona State. That's not necessarily, Anthony hasn't necessarily had the success that his brother Zahid has had, but Anthony Valencia as an 18 seed is kind of a head scratcher, given being a returning All-American, world team member for Mexico. I mean, that's a pretty tough matchup to start. At 174, you got Lance Runyon, the 18 seed, against Anthony Mantanona of Oklahoma. 184, Parker Keckeisen is the 4th seed for the 2nd straight year. He's got number 9, Chris Weiler of Wisconsin. And then at heavyweight, Terrell Gordon, he's also in that the pigtail match, like Holschlag. And he's got number 32, Matt Cover of Princeton, which is interesting because Matt Cover was not the heavyweight for Princeton to start. I think a lot of people will remember that was Del Garbino who pinned Tony Cassiope in the opening in one of the first duels, if not the season opener, for the Hawkeyes. So somebody different there at heavyweight for Princeton.
Right. I'm guessing it's injury because you'd think otherwise he'd be wrestling or whatever. But yeah, it was definitely the opening dual meet for Iowa. I think there were some wrestlers that wrestled up at the Luther Open. So,
what do you think about kind of what UNI is bringing to the field and what the potential is for them coming in?
Well, I mean, UNI's got some tough seeds, some lower seeds. They're going to have to really wrestle above seed. Obviously, Parker is their guy, and as Parker goes, so goes the Panthers. So if he has a great tournament and the others don't, they'll have that to bank on a little bit. But if we can get him going, and then maybe a couple others, sneak through, I'd like to think that maybe they have a chance at 25 and 33. And then the others are probably long shots, I would say. So you talked about 41 Cale Happel being an alternate, because that's kind of a new thing, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, can you describe that a little bit? I think they picked 4 alternates, and then if someone's not able to wrestle, maybe COVID or whatever. Is that the situation?
Yeah, and I think it's to avoid scratches, kind of like what we had last year with Lance Runyon. I think they've got guys that are ready to step in. So you're not having that last minute, buy or forfeit because of somebody not wanting to, kind of bow out. Not that, the situation last year with UNI was they thought he was going to be ready, but it just turned out that his elbow wasn't good enough last year. So Runyon had to scratch at the last minute, but this would allow somebody to be ready to go travel, like Happel will travel with the team and be eligible to step in if somebody isn't able to go at the weight class.
Gotcha. So that means he'd have to be down to weight and ready to go and still be training hard. And yeah, that's not neat for him, but it's a tough spot to be in too. Sure.
And it's, and I understand, there are some some that don't want to, make the decision on Monday. Who's to say, okay, I might feel better in a day or two, or at least well enough to be able to go. So you don't want to have to sacrifice that berth so early. But then, that brings up the situation where they just weren't good enough to be cleared to go on Thursday. So instead of having that lost match, you've got somebody to plug in. So I like it. I like it. I think it's good. It doesn't put a lot of pressure on people having to, I remember the West Virginia 97 pounder one year, qualified and was beat up and kind of had to, decline and scratch himself early. But yeah, I like it. And yeah, you've got to train and make sure you're down to weight and stuff like that. But you also get kind of a quasi feel for what the nationals are going to be like and preparing for it. So hopefully it's a positive, even if he doesn't end up getting a chance to get on the mat.
Right.
Mikhail Haffel.
Hey, did you happen to pick your finalists?
I sure did. I sure did. I got finalist, top 5 teams, and then I've got kind of a dark horse or Cinderella champ, I guess, to go with. Does that sound good?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. How do you want to start? You want to just roll down from? You want to start with the teams, or you want to do that last?
Let's do teams last, I guess. You want to do 25? I'll do 33, and then every other one.
Okay, sounds good. So 125. Now were we doing the Cinderella or the dark horse champ for each weight, or just pick one guy? Because I only picked one guy that
I kind of did it when I was going through. I on some weights I picked the Cinderella, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 weights where I did a Cinderella and 4 that I didn't, because then I was going to pick from those 6 who my Cinderella was.
Gotcha.
So I kind of have a yes and no on that.
All right. Well, I will. 125. I've got Nick Suriano. I thought he looked really tough. Really tough in the Big Tens, even though I kind of wavered a little bit because I've got Vito from Cornell as the runner-up. I could easily flip-flop those two. But right now, I'm going with Suriano as my champ and Vito as my runner-up at 25.
Yeah, and I had a hard time going away from Glory. So I had Suriano and Glory in the finals with Suriano winning it. So I stayed to seed on that one, I guess. So then at 33, that was, as much as I with DeSanto at the 5th seed and his not being able to break through with RBY, I have RBY and Fix in the finals, and I think RBY wins it again. So
see, I've got it reversed. I've got Fix coming out on top this time. Nothing more than a hunch. But I've got Dayton Fix as my 33-pound champ, and Roman Bravo Young from Penn State as my number 2. So at 141, man, I really, really, really wanted to go with Sebastian Rivera. Coming out of that bottom side of the bracket. I don't think it matters who does. I think Nick Lee's going to win it. So Nick Lee's my champion, but I went with Jaden Ironman. Maybe the homer in me kind of popped out since I cover Iowa wrestling. But I think it really is a coin flip in the semifinals, and I certainly would have been comfortable picking Sebastian Rivera, but I went with Jaden Ironman as my runner up there at 41.
All right, so at 41, I have, because of the injury and the unknown, I had Nick Lee and Rivera in the finals. I did not have Jaden as much as I want him there, and I hope that he gets there. I just, with the injury, not knowing the extent of it, I kind of went with Rivera, and then I actually have Rivera winning it. So I did.
Really?
I did take the lead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but here's one where I had a kind of a long shot, not to get to the finals necessarily, but to be an All-American, and it's coming all the way from the 18th seed. I just, for some reason, Jack Ryan, watching him a couple of years ago, and from North Carolina State, I just
Okay.
so that's he's clear down at, where is he, at the 18th seed. So that stuck out to me, and I thought, if Ironman in fact is hurt, maybe he's the one that the pull, comes out of that quarter.
Oh, sure.
So that was my thought there. So a lot of my decision in this weight really was based on Ironman maybe not being 100%. So anyway, it's now at 149. To me, an easy choice for one finalist. That's Yanni Diakomahalis. I mean, that guy is just so fun to watch. He's so good. And then the not so easy on the other side. I was looking at Gomez or Wilson, and I actually I just went with Gomez because he's got a little bit better resume than Wilson. Gomez from Wisconsin, re-entered wrestling, and then Wilson, North Carolina State again. So, but Yanni's my clear champ there over Gomez.
Yeah, I actually had the same picks. I really like, obviously, Yanni D. That guy's so fun. It's been glad to have him back, at the national tournament. Gomez, I was really impressed with the way Gomez wrestled at the Big Tens. Boy, he really came out and he was firing. He was going after big moves, man. And when you're doing that, there's a confidence and kind of a looseness to you that you feel you can take down Goliath if you have to. And I was just really impressed with the way he looked at Big Tens. Got a nice win with Sasso, which, let's talk about one of the better semifinals that could be in this tournament on Friday night. That'd be Yanni Diakomahalis and Sammy Sasso facing off there. That could be really fun. But I agree with you. I've got Yanni Diakomahalis and Austin Gomez 1-2 there. At 157, I think you nailed it right on the head, Coach. I just do not see David Carr losing to anybody in this bracket. I saw on Twitter where people were saying, okay, who's your lock? After Gable Stevenson. And there are a lot of different answers. But the one that I was perplexed about was David Carr was like 4th or 5th on a lot of people's lists as far as being a lock. I think he's right up there with Stevenson. I think he's right up there with I know you went with Rivera over Nick Lee, but Yanni, I think he's right up there with those guys as far as being pretty sure things to be wrestling on Saturday night. Then I have him wrestling Ryan Deacon in the finals. Carr winning, Deacon being number 2, Deacon from Northwestern.
Right. I'll rubber stamp that. Move on. Because I think he's that good. And I agree 100% with you. So, all right. Now it gets a little bit trickier at 65 for me. So Evan Wick is the number 1 seed. I had to pick one big upset, and I think this is going to be it. I always call him Sticky Wick because he's on top of that length, and he's so clingy and everything. So he's really great on top. But I don't know if anyone's there that can knock him off. So I was looking at Griffith, who was a defending champ, right? and then Hamady from Wisconsin, who's equally as tough. And so I actually went with Hamady beating Wick, and then Marinelli coming in on the bottom half, and Marinelli wins it. So my champ here is Marinelli.
You know what? I was thinking I had a unique pick at 165. Somehow we are on the exact same page. I have Alex Marinelli beating Dean Hamady in the finals.
Oh,
With Marinelli as my champ and Hamady as the runner-up.
right. And then I did have a little bit of a long shot there to maybe make the semifinals, or hopefully not the finals. Ohio State, Carson, Carchula, is he a freshman?
Yes.
Freshman, so you never know there, but you know that's my kind of my long shot at this way to go far.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good pick.
We both picked number 1 and number 2 seeds to not make the finals on that. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah, there's always one weight where you have something like that, and I just see 165. I just don't, Wick in the past, I know he's good and solid. I just don't see how going out to Cal Poly would have helped him improve as far as practice partners, competition he's seen during the season. I just don't see how that's going to prepare him as well. And I do have Hamady, coming out of there. We've seen how he's wrestled against Marinelli in the Big Ten, the rest of the Big Ten field. And then you've got Shane Griffith on that side as well. That's just going to be tough for either one of those two. It's going to be a tough matchup for Wick.
Right.
And then Keegan O'Toole, he's got, he's got the resume, he's got the talent. I just think, Alex Marinelli, this is kind of the time where, he kind of comes through and finishes on top. I just think it's just the way for him to kind of close things out more than anything.
74. I'm curious here. What do you got?
I went pretty vanilla on this one. Maybe a little bit of a different, maybe a little bit of a different finish, but I've got the 1 and 2 seeds making the finals, but I have Mekhi Lewis of Virginia Tech winning instead of Carter Starochi. So I have the top 2 seeds getting there, but just flip-flopping with Lewis coming out on top over Starochi.
Man, we're on the same page because I had the very same thing. Lewis yep. And then, but I mean, with Massa and Hidley there, Massa being 3rd seed, Hidley the 4th seed, that just is a deep weight, and it's going to be fun. Those semifinals are going to be on fire, so we'll see.
Yeah, and this is a way I think where you could have, you could have a 6 or a 7. Certainly, you could have a 5, maybe not a 7. I don't see Ethan Smith getting through, but I mean, if Kemmerer is healthy, he's dangerous. At the 5, you mentioned Hidley at 4. You've got Labriola there, who's really good. Dustin Plott from Oklahoma State. This could be a fun one.
Right, and I didn't mean to ignore Kemmerer, but again, it's that shoulder because Kemmerer is good enough to win it.
Right.
He can beat anyone in this. It just depends on where he's at on that shoulder. So I don't mean to ignore him or anything, but I just had to go with lack of not knowing what the injury was like.
No, I agree 100%.
84, is that me? It is, isn't it?
Yep.
So 84, tough weight. As much as I hope Parker Kickeisen wins it, and I sure want him to, I don't know that he can crack into the finals. So I picked Amin, and then on the other side, this was tough between Brooks and Hidley. But I picked Brooks. And then I actually have Amin winning it. I think he's going to beat Brooks. Yeah.
Really? I have Aaron Brooks winning it. He's my champ at 184. And I have Parker Keckeisen making the finals.
Yes.
I have, there's something about him. There's something about the pace that he wrestles. I think there's just something. It's just a gut feeling that I like him being on the opposite side of Hidley and Brooks, and I think Amin is a matchup that I could see Parker's pace paying off in the third period and coming out on top. But I think there still is kind of a block. I see him facing Brooks, and Brooks has had his number, beat him in the semifinals last year, beat him 3-2 earlier this year. He just almost like a DeSanto Roman Bravo Young kind of thing, where he's been able to wrestle close and in the match, but just can't get over the hump. And I think that's going to be the case here again. But I like those two being in the finals. At 197, I think I kind of went the status quo there as well, except like 74. I flip-flopped. I went with Stephen Buchanan from Wyoming over Max Dean. So the number 2 over the number 1 there. However, this is the weight class where I see kind of the Cinderella guy coming through. And my pick is going to be, if there's going to be one outside of, say, the top 4 that wins the title, I'm going to go with Nino Bonacorsi of Pitt.
Okay.
He's the number 5 seed. He's on the same side with Max Dean. He's 15-3 this year. He was a national runner-up last year at 197. One of his he's avenged one of his losses, which came during the ACC. He overturned that to win the conference title. He could face Pat Brookie of Michigan, who handed him one of his other losses. And then, I think Dean's, I think of a lot of top seeds. Dean is one that's vulnerable, just kind of like Miles Amin. And not picking him, but I'm saying if I had one to kind of go with, it would be Bonacorsi.
Okay, so
And I like Tanner Sloan making the podium as the number 12 seed for South Dakota State as well.
well, I like that. That'd be awesome. So 97, I have Dean, and again it's and Schultz in the finals, and I think Dean wins it again, even though that was real close. But my long shot here, we spoke of earlier, is the Cyclone, Younger Bastida. So I mean, I don't know that he can win it, but I think he can place high. So, and he's coming from the what do you say, 10th seed, I think he was. So
right,
and so that's my long shot here. Not necessarily to win it, but to place high.
I like it. I like it. If he gets hot, he's a tough out.
Right.
He's going to be a tough out for anybody.
Right.
If he's feeling it on his feet.
And then also coming out of that same part of the bracket was Rocky Elam. So either one of those two, but of course we want our Cyclone to shine there.
Sure.
And then at heavyweight, so there's the heavyweight champion, and then there's the rest.
Yeah.
So of course, So obviously Gable to win it. Now, who's he going to be wrestling against? Again, it's an Iowa injury. I don't know where Cassiope's at with his injury, why he didn't wrestle in the Big Tens. If he's at full bore, I would think he would be in the finals. But I gotta go with the injury factor. So I went with Paris, coming from the 7th seed, to be the JV champ there.
That's that's a great way to put it, really. You know, it's funny, and I shouldn't think this, but you mentioned Cassiope injury defaulting at the Big Tens, and thinking of the injury factor, right? Iowa heavyweights have had some bad luck when it comes to that. When you think of Bobby Telford blowing out his knee in the quarterfinals,
Yeah.
the one year, I think maybe even his freshman or sophomore year. But then you had Sam Stoll, who was battled injury, and then that came back to haunt him. I think at New York City, possibly. Can't exactly remember where the site was, but Sam Stoll had to forfeit out. So hopefully, lightning doesn't strike a third time with Cassiope. But obviously, I've got Gable Stevenson winning with Cassiope in the finals for that other one. And you mentioned Paris, and I'll say it too. With somebody we mentioned earlier, Jordan Wood. I think that's somebody to keep an eye on as well at the number 6, because if Cassiope isn't healthy, he could come through. And seems like we're kind of dismissing Colton Schultz, but I just, for some reason, as a number 2, I just can't get behind him. Great Greco wrestler. I just don't see it enough for him to come out of that bottom side.
Have you had a chance to watch Air Force heavyweight?
I have not seen Hendrickson compete.
It's fun. You're gonna keep an eye on him. There's one that could be a sleeper too. So he's exciting. He's fun, man. Watching the Big 12 championships. Wow, I can't wait to see him wrestle. Actually, he might be my new favorite. I was like Dumas is the thrower.
Yep.
So might be now. Wyatt Hendrickson might be my guy.
All right. I'll have to keep an eye on him this weekend. So with your teams, what 5 teams do you have kind of leading the way?
Well, Penn State. I had Penn State winning it. And then now, what do you do? So again, I don't know the injury factor, so I had to factor that in, and hopefully I'm wrong. But I had Michigan 2nd, North Carolina State's 3rd, Iowa 4th, and then I just pulled Arizona State in there at 5th. I don't know if that's going to fly, but so I just think, I don't know where they're at with injuries. So
sure. I have Penn State number 1. I think that's for me, it's a clear one. I've got Iowa at number 2, Michigan at 3. I've got NC State coming in at 4. And then I've got Cornell sneaking in at number 5. I got Cornell sneaking it ahead of Arizona State. Of course, I could see Arizona State finishing 4th as well, 4th or 5th. You've got Courtney, you've got Colton Schultz, you got Ja'Cory Teemer, you've got Kyle Parko, who was a Fresno State All-American, is part of the Arizona State lineup as well. So it wouldn't surprise me, but I'm just going to go with NC State number 4, and then Cornell sneaking in there at number 5.
Okay. Yep. And then as you were kind of running the Arizona State guys, Valencia's in there too. It could be. You never know. So
yeah.
Anyway,
Yep.
so I guess we kind of did our long shots as we were going. So
Yep.
anyway,
Any other words about the D1s coming up? You know, it should be fun. Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. My first time in Detroit, so
I guess
I'm looking forward to that.
one other thing, islands that are in the NCAA that we have in our.
Oh, sure.
So we got Blockus from Minnesota, Ayala from Iowa. Iowa State has Devine and Coleman. UNI has Teskey, Scaglia, Hochlag, Yant, Runyon, and Gordon. South Dakota State, DeVos and Sloan. And then Purdue has Max Lyons. So the 13 islands that I saw, unless I missed someone.
It'll be fun to watch those guys compete. You know, it's always fun to keep tabs, and you know, especially like Cade DeVos has had a strong season there at 174. Somebody you don't get to see quite as often at South Dakota State, but it'll be fun to keep tabs on him this week as well. Let's turn to last week's championships. Cedar Rapids hosted the NCAA Division III wrestling championships, and no surprise as to who won, really, but how they won is probably the more attention-getting factor in this whole thing. Wartburg edges Wabash for its 15th NCAA team title. Trying to see what the score is. 79-78, and Wartburg needed a little help there in the finals. Wabash had 3 finalists. The Wartburgs won, and they needed a little help. They got it from the likes of Baldwin Wallace, which is coached by former Western Dubuque and co-wrestler Jamie Gibb. They got it from North Central at 197. I can't remember the other.
Baldridge was the champ there.
Yep. But I can't remember the third school that helped them out with win in the finals that helped Wartburg come away with edging Wabash by 1.
That was Braden Burt from Milliken.
Oh, okay. There you go. I knew it was another Iowa tie. I knew there was a Iowa tie there, the former Western Dubuque state champion. And the interesting thing too, and I don't know if you caught the tweets that I sent out about this. So Braden Burt, the son of Ryan Burt, he's the Milliken coach. He also was a national champ and 2-time D3 finalist for Upper Iowa. The 1999 Wartburg edged Augsburg by 1.5 at I can't remember where it was at, but anyway, Wartburg had a 1.5 victory over Augsburg for a title in 1999. Ryan Burt beat a finalist from Augsburg to win it, which also helped Wartburg win a team title that year in a really close race. And now his son, Braden Burt, did the exact same thing this year. So if I was Wartburg, I'd send a nice fruit basket and a care package to the Burt family for helping them with 2 of their closest team races in school history.
Right, and I'd probably send one to Baldwin Wallace and one to North Central, whose coach was a former athlete, I believe, at Wartburg. So,
and it's interesting because apparently the North Central coaches, when they went out to 197, turned to the Wartburg group kind of huddled in the corner, watching things and said, "Hey, we got you." don't worry about it. We got this. And then went and proceeded to come away with a decision. Like you said, Baldridge beat Jack Helt of Wabash 3-2. So kind of cool. And Warburg came away with the title. And I'll mention it because I'm sure you probably don't want to or hedge a little bit on it. But the deciding point came in the 187 or 184 third place match where Kyle Briggs beat Shane Liegel. Got a reversal to win 2-0. Close out his career with a win. Another All-American finish. Finished third in 2 NCAA tournaments. Was an NWCA champ. So big contribution there from Kyle Briggs to close things out with a win. Second All-American finish at the NCAAs to go along with that NWCA title and provide that last point that was the difference.
Right, and that's a tough morning. First of all, they're wrestling semifinals in the morning, which I think is tough on itself. But anyway, then if you lose in the semifinals, now you got to come back 45 minutes to an hour later, coming off a loss, losing your national title, wrestling someone that had to deal with that the night before and has already had one win under their belt, and they're kind of back on track a little bit. So that's a tough battle. So I was proud of Kyle for that. And then when you're wrestling the kid that beat you 2 weeks earlier, that was the national champion at 84 last year. So that was a real proud of him for battling there. And but anyway, I couldn't help but think that Coach Keller might almost outcoached himself. And by that, let me explain myself a little bit. So I think he made a shift to put it, when we talked about this earlier, put someone in at 65 and then bump up the 65 pounder to Mulder to 74 and Briggs up to 84. And I think if he'd have left him down, the 65 pounder didn't qualify and finished sixth in regionals. And if he'd have left him down, I truly believe that they would have had 5 to 7 more points, not including bonus points. So, which I think they would have picked up there. So I just think that Mulder would have placed higher than fourth, and I think I'm just going to say it, I think Kyle would have won it at 74. So that's just so it took some points out of his pocket there. That's why I say he almost outcoached himself a little bit there. So fortunately, it turned out all right, and the Knights won it.
Yeah. So Wartburg ended up with all 7 qualifiers making the podium. They had a finalist in Zarin Terakina, who had a fantastic tournament. He had a couple major decisions in route to the finals, especially his semifinal. He was the only Warburg wrestler to win in the semis, obviously. He beat Averet's Brandon Woody 12-0. He faced Jordan James of Mount Union in the finals. Jordan James was a 2019 NCAA champion. And James held on for a 3-2 victory there in the finals. But Terakina with a real nice tournament to reach the finals.
Right. He's the only one that wrestled above his seed on the Warburg team. Kyle was 1 below his seed, and the others were considered below it. So they were 15 below seed as a team. So that was, that's the falling on your face thing in Saturday morning that really hurt and made this way closer than it should have been. Had some guys that weren't able to get through that semifinal match, but that also is Division III. The seeds are all over the place, and you had upsets galore. And we saw a number 1 and number 2 seed in the first round go down, and
right.
And, so it's just tough in that respect. But
just to recap the placings. Brady Kiner was 5th at 125. Joe Pins 8th at 133. Terakina, we mentioned, was a runner-up at 141. Christian Rumpf was 5th at 149. Had a pin in his final match, which proved real important. You can point to that as being kind of a difference maker as well. David Hollingsworth was sixth, got hurt in the semifinal, and then medical forfeited out after that. Zane Mulder, as you mentioned, he was fourth at 174, and then Kyle Briggs at 184 was third.
Right.
Mulder fourth at 174. He was third behind Jacob Krakow of Loris there, and kind of interesting. Wartburg kind of had associations with the wrestlers that finished second, third, and fourth in that bracket, where Krakow originally started at Wartburg before transferring to Loris. Obviously, Zane Mulder was fourth, and then the runner-up at 174 was Michael Ross, who was an All-American for Wartburg at one time, now wrestling for Johnson and Wales. He ended up second, and he actually led D3. He was awarded the most technical falls for the season. So he led D3 in technical falls there for Johnson and Wales at 174.
Right. I think he had 21 or 23 or something like that on the season. That's incredible. That's like a career.
Yeah.
That's better than a career for most people. But and then Ross was Kyle's sweet mate up at Wartburg for a year there, and then of course Jacob and he are at the same weight. So yeah, it's interesting. And then Ross and Mulder had matched up in the semifinals. So you're right.
Yep, and we mentioned Shane Legal already. Krakow and Legal finished third and fourth. Those were Loris's only two All-Americans. Coe had two All-Americans. Caleb Reeves, who bounced back from a disappointing quarterfinal loss where he kind of forced a little bit of a throw and got put on his back, and then Donovan King of Olivet locked up a cradle and ended up getting a fall. But Reeves stormed back with 4 wins, including 3 pins. Even had a major decision in there. The major decision was over Robbie Bates of North Central, who knocked off the number 1 seed. As we mentioned, that first round, the number 1 seed Bates beat from Wabash, Max Bishop. But Reeves storms back and gets third and really dominant. And he led Division 3 in pins this year with 24, I believe. And that's a regular season record as well. And then Will Esmoil, I think we talked about him a couple times during the season and the way he's wrestled, and he looked really good. He knocked off Dominic Reyes from Johns Hopkins in the first round. And I believe Reyes was the number 2 seed of that weight class. And then he came back, beat Chase Schmidt of Wisconsin Eau Claire in the quarterfinals, lost a tough one to Kyle Hatch in the semifinals. Hatch was a runner-up to Braden Burt, as we mentioned, but he came back, went 1-1 on the backside to finish 4th. 57-pounder, really, that wrestled up and did well.
Yeah, he's wrestled 57, 65, and 74. Remember, at the national duels, he wrestled Cornell Beecham, had him on the ropes in the sudden victory. Not much time left, and took kind of a silly shot that was probably unnecessary, and gave up a takedown. Otherwise, he beats the 74-pound champion that's been undefeated for the last 2 years. So, that Will Esmo has been. He had a great season, I think. I'm really excited for his.
And I want to say this about Cornell Beecham too. He went over to his court. So they had coaches' corners, and then they had little like fan like a fan corner where they had about 4 or 5 chairs set up for family and fans of the finalists. And Cornell Beecham walked over, and I thought it was pretty cool. Grabbed his young daughter, uh, infant daughter, brought him back over to the corner after he won, and kind of held her up to the crowd and stuff like that. And I thought that was kind of a neat way to kind of share that moment and kind of cap his tournament by being able to share that with her. I thought that was really cool.
Right, and the crowd received it really well, gave him a nice ovation. So that was a neat moment.
Yep. A couple other noteworthy things too here. North Central, they ended up. We talked about Cody Baldridge winning at 197. They also won at 133. Robbie Preeson came away. He ends up being North Central's very first NCAA champion. So they went from 0 to 2 over the course of the night, where Robbie Preeson got the school's first NCAA title. Baldridge won at 197 as well. And as a team, they end up finishing tied for third with Augsburg at 62.5. Behind Wartburg and Wabash. So a really good performance for North Central overall.
Right. And I think there were 4 schools that had first-time champions, if I'm not mistaken. I think Milliken, that was their first NCAA champ.
Right.
And then maybe was it Baldwin Wallace, maybe, and then anyway, no, they didn't have a champ. Anyway.
Baldwin Wallace had a champ, but it wasn't their first.
Was not.
It
Okay.
was their first in a really long time.
About 30 years.
Like 30 some years.
Yeah. So it was a neat night. Now you're speaking of if you look at the ARC and if you look at the Lower Midwest Regional, it didn't really fare that well. So the ARC had only 1 finalist and a second, and that was the second. That was Terrakina. That was the only finalist that the American Rivers Conference had, and then the Lower Midwest had 3 champions and 1 runner-up. So not real strong performance there they still have a lot of All-Americans, but it was lower than they were projected to have, I think so.
And I think Beecham was the first
Yes, you're right.
NCAA champ for Mount St. Joseph as well.
Right.
So yeah, and one other finish of note, one ended up 6th overall, even with just the 2 All-Americans. They ended up finishing 6th. A lot of bonus points went along with that, obviously. But speaking of the American Rivers Conference, Central College's Shandon Akio ended up 3rd at 125. Made the semifinals, lost a tough one there. Came back and got 3rd to finish off his senior career, 22-1.
Right. I just wrote this down as an interesting note. Wabash, who was 1 point behind Wartburg, correct? They had their number 1 seed, like we mentioned, at heavyweight. Not only lost the first round, but then he lost his very first wrestle back. So he went 0-2. The number 1 seed, they got 0 points from him. However, on the flip of that, their 149-pounder lost his first round pigtail match and then came back and won 6 straight, including the decision over the 8 seed, the majored over the 6 seed, and then he pinned the number 2 seed from Wartburg to place 3rd. So go figure.
Right.
I thought that was interesting.
The only thing predictable about the D3 wrestling tournament is the fact that it's unpredictable.
Right. That makes it fun.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It was a great. That's one of my favorite events. Not just because, I had teammates and stuff compete there and do well. My freshman year, BV was 5th overall. But it's just one of my favorite event overall. The competitors, the attitude, and kind of the purity that surrounds it a little bit. Um, it's one of my favorite events.
Yeah, agreed. And these kids, they don't get a scholarship like you do in Division II or Division I. They're doing it for the love of the sport, for sure. And it's so fun because we're in the heart, the hot seat or the hotbed or whatever of D3 wrestling with so many great programs around. So it makes it even more special to see our high school kids graduate to that level.
Right. For sure. For sure. I just mention real quickly that the Division II championships were down in St. Louis over the weekend. Tate Murdy, the lone Upper Iowa qualifier, he went 1-2 at 141. It was University of Nebraska Kearney that came away with a team title. They scored 127 points, well ahead of Central Oklahoma, which was runner-up at 86. Matt Malcolm with his second NCAA title. Of course, he's from Glenwood. Had a brief stop at the University of Iowa before heading to Nebraska Kearney. And then Justin Portillo, formerly of Clarion Goldfield Dows. He was a runner-up at 125, I believe his second national final appearance, maybe third, but I think it's his second. He won it a couple years ago, but he finishes as a runner-up there to Cole of West Liberty. Any words of wisdom or any thing? I know one thing I'd like to share here really quick that we didn't when we talked about the D1s. If you want to be able to view, you'll be able to view the D1 championships. The day sessions will be on ESPNU. The night sessions, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, will be on ESPN. 3 straight nights of primetime wrestling, 19 hours of live coverage overall. You'll have Daniel Cormier as one of the analysts, but you'll be able to see Jim Gibbons be a part of that, Mike Cousins as well. Jaden Cox is going to be on the broadcast. Shane Sparks, Anthony Robles, the former Arizona State national champion. They'll be part of the coverage, so you'll be able to get most of your fix on, not Dayton fix, just your fix of wrestling on ESPN, ESPNU the next few days.
I remember when we used to, after the national tournament was over, you had to wait till the summer to see the finals matches. And now look at our coverage. We've come a long ways in wrestling.
Yeah. It's a lot different than even kind of what was it? The remember coming back from a commercial, from time due to time restraints, we'll join this match in the second period.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was I think they might have showed it on Wide World of Sports. Remember that? Mm-hmm. In the summer, it was like 4 months later or whatever. We're like, geez, really?
Right. So, all right. Any parting words? I'm really looking forward to the competition here in Detroit.
Should be fun.
Awesome. Well, we'll come back next week and have our final podcast and break down the D1s, the last one of the year, and look forward to that as well as we put another season to bed.
Okay. Awesome. See you then.
Awesome. And go ahead and send us out, Coach.
Let's keep wrestling on the move.
Thanks for watching, everybody.